everyone, Louis Hanzo here, and welcome to the first What If on this channel. I asked you guys what you wanted to see, and you guys said what ifs. Then you told me you wanted to see Bardock. Yes, that man right there. Go to Earth with Goku, and how this would affect Dragon Ball. I also asked if you wanted it, just the Cliff Notes version so we can, move on through the story further and faster, or if you wanted to slow it down and get some dialogue in there. And you guys want some dialogue in there. So, that being said, this is going to be an interesting experience, but I want you to note this story takes elements of Dragon Ball Super Broly, Dragon Ball Minus, and Bardock, the Father of Goku TV special to create Bardock's personality for this. This is merely my take on the path of this Saiyan, and you might be saying, and I really hope this becomes a thing, but Hanzo, what about this? Well, like I said, this is just my take on things. So that being said, sit down, pull up a chair, get your popcorn ready, steal it from someone else in the comment section if you have to, please don't, and we'll get this party started. Age 737, the year that would see the birth of a man that would defeat a great evil. The year that would see the end of the majority of the Saiyan race. And the very year that a lone warrior would stand his ground and face down a blood-parched tyrant. We all know how this story ends. The warrior and his people annihilated. The child of the warrior sent off to the world we live on. Thus the story of Kakarot, the boy Son Goku, would begin, and he would eventually avenge his father and people. But what if there was another story, one where a change in the visions he had would affect the lone warrior's fate and put him on a different course? The question stands on what will happen next, and that's where we start. Age 737, planet Kanasa. The squad of Saiyans under Bardock have just finished conquering the world on behalf of Frieza. As the members of Team Bardock, and that's in air quotes, you don't see my avatar doing it, but I'm doing it. Fasha, Tora, Shugesh, and Borgos relax and discuss the destruction of the Kanasan civilization. A lone Kanasan fighter assails Bardock. Just as in the Father of Goku special, Bardock receives visions of the future, and before the Saiyan collapses from the attack, the Kanasan fighter tells the Saiyan, "Look well into the future, and see your people fall as ours has. Know that all your kind will be as dust in the cosmos." Fasha and Tora promptly obliterate the Kanasan with ki blasts. Borgos and Shugesh check on their comrade as they do. Bardock shakes off what he saw as illusions, but what he saw is preposterous. Nothing more than a trick to lower his guard. "I'm fine, that bastard used some sort of illusion on me," says Bardock. Let's head back and report to Lord Frieza, says Tora firmly. The warriors head back to their pods and ready for departure, but Bardock stops and drops to his knees as a vision grips his mind. He sees Frieza floating outside his ship, laughing maniacally, and holding above his head a massive ball of energy. Bardock's eyes widen as Frieza casually launches the ball toward him, and as the sphere strikes him, he is returned to his pod with Tora standing over him. "Okay, Bardock. I know you're a tough guy, and I don't know what that guy did to you, but let's get you to a healing chamber." "Come on." Tora helps Bardock into his pod, and using a remote, sends the pod and warrior to the nearest Frieza-controlled planet. As Bardock's pod rises, Tora and the others board their vessels and follow. "The future," mutters Bardock. Could he have been actually telling the truth? This is impossible. The Kanasan was trying to rattle him with some kind of trick so Bardock would be vulnerable. However, as he traveled, he could not shake that there was some small truth to the words spoken to him. Was Frieza truly intending to wipe out the Saiyans? "Hey, Bardock! You still alive in there?" said Borgos over comms. Bardock shook his head and glared at his control panel before replying, Takes more than a cheap shot to kill me. What do you want, Borgos? Any idea what we're getting there? Where we're going next? Does it really matter, Borgos? Followed immediately by Shugesh chiming in. We will show up, crush them, and hand over the planet to Lord Frieza. Cram it, you two, said an annoyed Fasha. I'd like a nap before we get there and have to put up with the crap from Frieza's lackeys. With that, things go quiet, and Bardock stares out his pod and dozes off. He dreams of a planet that is so peaceful and filled with beings that are quite honestly non-threatening. More so, he sees a young boy fighting in a contest of skill and battle, defeating a man with 3 eyes. Bardock! Wake up! We've arrived at Frieza Planet 647. Bardock shakes his head to clear the nonsensical dream from his mind and replies with a terse, Alright everyone, get some rest, heal up, and we'll wait our next contracts. Roger that, says his team in unison. Sometime after landing and heading to the med bay, Bardock is floating in a healing tank and pondering everything he had seen in his dream and visions. That planet he saw in that dream, he had never been there, hadn't met any beings like he saw. More so, the young boy looked like his son Kakarot, and his vision of Frieza had shown what to be the death of his planet. But why would he destroy the Saiyans? While Bardock floated in his tank, a lone soldier approaches Tora as he observed Bardock. Fosh and the others had headed off for food, but Tora was suspicious of what the Kanasan had done to Bardock. Excuse me, you're the Saiyan Tora, yes? Tora turned toward the soldier for a moment, glanced at Bardock, and then back to the soldier. Yeah, I'm him. What do you want? Lord Frieza has sent out a call for all Saiyans to return to planet Vegeta immediately. Any reason? Said Tora, curious. I can round up Vasha, Borgos, and Shugas, but Bardock is, he's still floating. As if to punctuate the statement, a member of the medical staff approached with a data pad. He looked at Bardock's stats, typed some info into his pad, and turned toward the duo. The Saiyan Bardock will be cleared for release in about 6 hours, said the medical staff. Tora nodded and stared at the soldier for a moment before announcing, Alright, we will go ahead and return to planet Vegeta. Tora turned and pointed at the medical officer and said, Let him know as soon as he gets out of there that we went ahead of him. 6 hours pass as Bardock floats in his pod. When suddenly his eyes shoot open and the tank empties. The man steps out of the healing chamber and dresses in his armor and usual gear. And as he finished pulling on his boots, the medical officer approached him from behind with his scouter and a data pad. Saiyan Bardock, said the officer carefully. Lord Frieza has put out an edict for all Saiyans to return to planet Vegeta immediately. Bardock turned and looked at the medical officer before grunting a reply. Whatever. He grabs the scouter off the tray and then affixes the device to his head, walking toward his pod. He stops, however, for a brief moment as a vision passes through his mind. Frieza's ship orbiting planet Vegeta as a tyrant laughs. The planet beginning to explode into space dust and him dying in the explosion. However, a glimmer of hope in this grim vision as a lone pod flies clear of the planet, bearing Kakarot. Shaking his head, Bardock climbed into his pod and launched off to planet Vegeta. And as he traveled, he dozed off and saw the world, a world he had never been to. A world with a green sky and blue grass. A being resembling Frieza stood there. And as he chuckled, a lone man walked forward. A man that bore a striking resemblance to his own personage. The two figures took their stance and launched into a flurry of blows. And as they fought, Bardock beheld a flash of yellow light and snapped awake as his pod sensors alerted him to his arrival. As the pod shrieked toward Planet Vegeta, he saw something that chilled him to his core. Hovering over the planet was a familiar-looking vessel. This ship was large and round, bearing viewports throughout the entire vessel, all in a circular pattern. Bardock grunted in disgust at the sight of several of Frieza's soldiers already disembarking and taking positions around the vessel. This is bizarre. Why is he here? Could those dreams be true? Bardock held the side of his head as a sharp stabbing pain hit him. His vision swam as he saw glimpses of Frieza, a peaceful planet, the destruction of Planet Vegeta, and the last image was that of his youngest son. His vision stopped only when his pod landed and jostled him enough from the focus. "Welcome, Saiyan Bardock," droned an automated voice. "The time is..." "I don't care," said Bardock curtly. "Is there a scheduled visit for Frieza?" The automated voice is silent for a moment, but replied, "Lord Frieza has scheduled no such visit with the people of Planet Vegeta." As soon as the pod opened, Bardock darted out onto the pod platform and headed immediately for a control room. As he did, more visions flooded his mind. Him engulfed in orange flames, Frieza laughing, and a single pod leaving the planet. Each of these visions swirling around, repeating to the point he stopped in the hallway and held his head in pain. "Hey," said a Saiyan irritably, "what's your freaking problem? You're blocking the hallway." "Why's Frieza here?" said Bardock through his teeth. "What's he doing here? Why are we called back here?" The Saiyan punched Bardock across the face. "Who cares? He's Frieza. He goes where he wants, you dumbass." Bardock stumbled backward, holding the side of his head before regaining his balance and knocking the insolent Saiyan out. "Shows you for trying to get a cheap shot in." He glanced back over his shoulder at the unconscious Saiyan and began frantically thinking. Nobody knows why Frieza's here. He seems to be having some kind of premonitions, and he keeps seeing a grown-up Kakarot in them. "I need answers," muttered Bardock. "I need to find Kakarot. I need to get him off this planet." He arrived at the control room, and he saw the ship on the monitor. His ship. Frieza's ship. The soldiers in the control room were chattering about the tyrant's arrival and surprise inspections. They were in full chaos, yelling and starting fights with equipment being destroyed and fire starting everywhere. Bardock shook his head in disgust and started for the nursery, in search of his youngest son. He needed to find him and get him off-world, and then he could find Rats and Gine as well. The man was determined not to save only his youngest child, but his eldest son and his partner, Gine. Bardock stopped and stared at the other Saiyans running around like madmen. Some were fighting, some were partying, and some were just standing around discussing Frieza's arrival. These fools were so unaware of the premonitions he had seen. Wait, maybe he could convince them that Frieza was here to kill him. Maybe he could rally them against the tyrant. As he opened his mouth, another vision struck him. This one of him rushing to face Frieza as his fellow Saiyans ridiculed him as a fool and struck him repeatedly. No. They were doomed. He had to complete his mission. 2 hours later, in the Planet Vegeta 22nd Nursery Building, Bardock burst into the main incubator room and yelled, "Gine!" Gine turned around sharply and shocked and said, "Bardock? What's wrong?" Bardock ran over and quickly explained to Gine everything since he had arrived on planet Kanasa, which is quite a bit. She stared up at her partner and to his shock just nodded her head silently, acknowledging everything she was hearing. She took everything he said on board so readily and just sighed. "So," she said quietly, with a very uncharacteristic stern look on her face. You gained some kind of future vision, saw the arrival of Lord Frieza, and then you saw planet Vegeta being destroyed? By him? Taken aback by the concise statement, replied with, well, yeah. Yes, I plan to get you and Kakarot off-world. Where's Raditz? He was sent to a planet outside the reach of the standard communications. Good. Now I just have to get you two off this rock. What about you, Bardock? Aren't you going to leave too? Said a very confused Gine. No. I'll distract Frieza so that you can get our son off this planet. You and him both. Gine opened her mouth, but just silently nodded as she turned toward the incubator holding Kakarot. To survive, he would be sent away and never know his lineage, or his warrior father, or the world that they called home. She nodded and began interacting with the control panel to release her child. And as she did, she grabbed a few things from a nearby medical drawer and put them in a pouch on her belt. And yes, some of these Saiyans carry pouches. Check out the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. 3 hours later, at the, I guess the best way to term this is the spaceport. You know, where all the pods are sitting. Bardock stands over 2 unconscious Saiyans. Pathetic. And you're supposed to be the guards? We've been better off with Nappa here. And he's a moron. Bardock hefted a pod on each shoulder, looked back at Gine, who gingerly stepped over the unconscious Saiyans and scooped up the remotes of the pods, tucking them away in her pouch. Was this necessary? You kidding me? The moment they would have tried to run themselves, they would have been cut down. We would have received no fair treatment either. Come on. 3 hours later from this moment, on planet Vegeta, the opposite side of the planet from Frieza's ship, Bardock set the pods down on the ground with a grunt. These were not light, but this made a total of 2 pods he had smuggled out in the confusion he himself had caused. Gine silently followed her lover, carrying a sleeping Kakarot in her arms and the 2 pod remotes in her pouch. Alright. In about an hour, we will have the best option to send you 2 off. Gine was silent for a moment and asked, We will be going to that planet you saw in your vision, right? Wasn't it Earth? Yeah, replied Bardock, staring at the sky. I won't be able to go with you thanks to my power being around 10,000. Or at least that's what they claim it is. They'll easily find me and shoot me down. Gine looked down at her sleeping child, lost in thought. She knew that Bardock was right, then years from now her child would face down her soon-to-be killer. However, Bardock would never see the day. Hey, Bardock? What? If you're going to run to your death, then would you hold your son at least once? He just stared silently at the sleeping child and gave a brief nod. Bardock gently took his son into his arms and without a word wished him the greatest of strengths in battles. Hopefully, Kakarot, my spirit will rub off on you, and you will grow to be the mightiest warrior ever to walk a planet. Gine just smiled at the side and said, Bardock, is there just really no way for you to escape this? Bardock just shook his head and sighed. She wanted them to save him. Her, with her weak power, there's no way. He shook his head, walking over to one of the pods and pried it open and sat Kakarot in it. He checked his scouter at the sudden notification and noticed that there were more and more of the soldiers pouring out of Frieza's ship. Bardock just stared in the direction and growled. The only way I can escape would be if someone distracted them while I launched. Then let me be that distraction for you, said Gine fiercely. Our son will need someone to teach him our ways and how to be a warrior. You're more important to him than I am. Bardock stared in shock and just shook his head sadly. She was so soft-hearted and just so much weaker than him. How was she going to be able to handle distracting Frieza's soldiers? She was so weak that she was relegated to a mere cook instead of keeping her place in his squad. You know you don't have the power to slow them down, or even pose a threat to the basic soldier. How do you even intend to cover the escape of my power, let alone Kakarot? Gine just looked at her feet, then to the sleeping Kakarot, resting peacefully in his pod. Then she raised her eyes to meet Bardock's harsh stare. He was right. She was weak, powerless in the face of someone like Bardock. And while he was awake and standing ready for battle, his power would definitely go unnoticed if he was awake. Since I can't stop you, said Gine sadly, can I have one last request? What is it? Said Bardock, checking his scouter for the current time. What do you want? We have to get you two off this planet in the next 20 minutes, Gine. Gine just stared at her feet, her face red for a moment before saying, Embrace me one more time? I want you to hold me in your arms so I can carve one more memory of you into my heart. And for those of you who are questioning me right now, this is roughly in character for Gine. Just give it a minute. Bardock's face turned red for a moment but nodded. If she wants something so trivial, he could do that. It might even give her some drive to get Kakarot off planet. Get him stronger. Come here, said Bardock, pulling Gine into his arms. Is this what you wanted? A parting hug? Gine pulled Bardock's head down to her in a kiss. As the two kissed in an embrace, Bardock felt a sharp pain stab into his neck. Recoiling, he saw a device in Gine's hand, an injector for medicines and immunizers, with a vial attached to it empty. What did you do? What was in that injector? Bardock's vision began to swim and blur, his body starting to disobey his very command. Within moments, he had collapsed on the ground. He was out cold. As he lay there, Gine took the scouter off his head and put it on her own. Okay. Let's check his power level. Good, it's showing as about 50. And Kakarot is showing 2. Alright. This is gonna work. I need to be fast. Sorry, Bardock. Now come here, big guy. You're heavier than you look. She dragged Bardock over to the pod and propped him inside. She then quickly turned her head in the direction of Frieza's ship, starting to loom just beyond the horizon line. It took only 10 minutes for her to finish what her goal was, but it was done. She had loaded both father and son comfortably into their pods and was using the remotes to set them for a timed launch of 10 minutes. This was goodbye, she thought, staring at the sleeping duo. Goodbye, my son, and goodbye, my mate. Forgive my selfish wish. Live on and find joy in life. With her goodbye said, Gine focused and flew off toward Frieza's ship. She may not be strong, but she would make Lord Frieza earn this victory, if she could. And for those of you wondering why I'm making Gine so brave, well, if any of you have ever seen a mother pissed off and ready to fight for her kid, well, let's just put it like this. Mama's saying mad. So, 40 minutes later, in the space just outside of planet Vegeta, Bardock's eyes fluttered open to a bright orange light, bathing him in its glow. He started awake and immediately realized what Gine had done. She had loaded him into a pod after sedating him and launched him into space. Just what had happened after that? Damn it! Where is Kakarot? What is that light? He scanned the starscape in front of him and realized with numbing horror that the glow was the explosion of the planet he had been born on. Gine had taken his place in his vision and died for him and Kakarot. Wait, where's Kakarot? Come on, said Bardock, checking his sensors frantically. Where are you, kid? A moment later, a pod passed by him, and though it was for a brief moment, Bardock caught a glimpse of Kakarot sleeping peacefully inside the pod. Bardock, relieved, slumped into his pod's cushion and noticed the scatter lying at his feet. It's pointless. No need for that anymore, he thought to himself, and pondered if those visions he had were gone for good. Or would they return since he couldn't live them out? Didn't matter to him. All that mattered now was to get to this Earth and raise Kakarot there. Soon he felt sleep lay claim to him once more. And with the last thought passing through his mind being, if they can get Kakarot strong enough, if he and Kakarot could get him powered up enough, they could find Raditz, the three of them could take out Frieza. As he dreamt, he saw a mountain covered in foliage and rivers. This verdant-looking terrain felt so realistic to the point he could feel the wind blowing across his face and the leaves blowing past him. And as Bardock stood there, he beheld an old-looking man slowly walking along a mountain path with a bundle on his back. As he walked, the bundle fell, and before it could even make it level the cliff's ledge, the old man had caught it one-handed and flipped it back to his back and continued his journey. There was something about this doddering old man that gave Bardock pause. Who was he? Moments later, a loud beeping awoke Bardock inside his pod to see a warning flashing on the small panel. The pod had left the main astro navigation charts and was now flying only on the coordinates inputted before launch. Gine must have typed it all in before knocking him out. Or maybe she did after. Ugh. His head was pounding. Must have been an after effect from the sedative. Bardock, came Gine's voice from the computer. What the hell? If you're hearing this, then I have succeeded in saving you and our son. You may be angry that I used such a cheap trick to take you down, but I only did it out of love. Bardock just sadly stared at the panel and muttered, Damn it, Gine! You have raised him to be better than me. The best I could do is teach him how to kill. If I know you like I do, continued her recording, then you're blaming yourself or mad that I chose you to be the one to go with our child. I know you'll teach him not only to fight, but how to be better than you. Because, Bardock, you can be better and teach him to be better. I know it. Because you taught me how to be better. Bardock shook his head. What kind of soft-hearted mush was this? Sure, Gine's attitude had rubbed off on him. But how can he teach someone to be soft when his hands were drenched in the blood of untold planets? Maybe if that old man he saw in his dreams existed, he'd be able to help. but not him. Before I go to face Lord Frieza, I want to give you my last thoughts, said Gine's sad voice, echoing inside the pod. This will sound so unlike me as a Saiyan, but from the bottom of my heart, I love you three. Being a part of yours, Radz's, and Kakarot's lives made me happy. Just know that I go to buy time for the good of you, my family, because I want you to be happy, be free, and know that I loved you all. Goodbye, Bardock. Bardock sat in silence, his fists clenched as a few tears rolled down his face. Who had asked her to die for him? Why did she have to go instead? These thoughts circled in his head numbingly until finally he passed out. Planet Earth, Mount Paozu region, base of Dragon Rock. In the wee hours of the morning, two streaks of light tear through the skies of Earth and crash land in a small ravine. One of these streaks holding a father and the other his son, both survivors of a proud warrior race, and now refugees on a world not of their own. However, as they came to rest in the ravine, they would find themselves a world to call home, starting with the first thing Bardock would lay eyes on. As his pod opened, an old man greeted him. Oh my! And who are you? Bardock stood staring at him for a moment before realizing this was the old man from his dream. He just stared slack-jawed for a moment before reaching for his scatter and placing it on his face. My name's Bardock. I come from a planet that's out nothing more than space dust. My son and I are two of the only survivors. The old man looked over at the other now open pod and heard the sounds of a crying child. He stared for a moment at father, then son, and then back to father, giving him an appraising look. He tilted his head quizzically and smiled softly. Oh, my name is Gohan, said the old man. I'm just an old retired martial artist. Are you here to conquer us? Or maybe you want me to take you to the leader of our planet? Bardock stared at the old man as he chuckled, as if this was some sort of joke. This Gohan was capable of understanding and comprehending him. However, interesting. Keeping Gohan in his peripheral, Bardock walked over and retrieved his son, noting the armor and scouter Gine must have left for him. I have a lot to tell you. This is going to be one hell of a story for you, old man. You have a place we could stay, a shelter, a cave, hell, even a campsite. Gohan just smiled softly and said, Follow me. 4 hours later, Gohan's home at Mount Paozu. So a butcher of people ends with his people being butchered. There's some dark irony here. And now you're on my world to hide and bide your time. Yeah, that's about the sum of it, said Bardock with a growl. Gohan gave him a very sharp look and told him, You reek of death, Bardock. There's much for you to atone for in this life. One could even say that this could be a deserved fate for you. The Saiyan stood up, knocking his chair over and growled, So you're saying Gine deserved to die? That Kakarot will grow up not knowing his planet? Or are you saying that I did this to them both? Gohan held up a hand to the enraged Saiyan and replied, No to all those questions. This tyrant, this Frieza you speak of, he used your people as nothing more than disposable weapons then. The end, isn't it? According to what you have told me, this Frieza murders any who disobey his lust for death. Bardock retrieved his chair and replied over his shoulder. Yeah, he even destroyed my planet himself. Frieza hungers for power and delights in abusing the power he has. Any who disobey or disappoint him, he kills on the spot. I will help you on a few conditions, said the old man. What are these conditions? The first condition is that you reform yourself, said Gohan earnestly. Put your life as a conquering murderer aside and embrace a new life. Atone for the lives you have taken. You want me to become a pacifist? Bardock shouts this loud enough to awaken the sleeping Kakarot. You want me to become a spineless coward? Gohan sighed. No, atonement can come in many forms, Bardock. It will come to you in time, as it does all living things. However, the second condition is for you two to become one with the people of this world, adopt their cultures, and understand what makes them who they are. Grunted Bardock, resuming his seat. You want me and my son to become the Earthers? You want us to just give up our heritage, old man? You won't have to, replied a weary Gohan. All I'm asking is you to find it within yourself to take on the customs of this planet and their ways of life. The people of this planet are diverse. You may be able to learn something from them. The final condition is I train the both of you. I can sense that your power far exceeds my own, but power means nothing without the tempering of skill. And Bardock looks at him. And what? Self-discipline. Bardock slumped in his chair, quietly mulling over Gohan's words. Adopt this world as his new home, and find a way to atone for all the people he killed. His eyes went over to Kakarot, crying from being awoken, and let out a sigh that was so deep and meaningful it seemed to shake the Saiyan completely. For the sake of Guinea, the son he had in front of him and the one lost amongst the stars, he would have to adopt Gohan's conditions. Bardock would have to be what Guinea tried to push him to be, a better man than he was. Gohan, said Bardock with a resigned look on his face. I won't make some half-assed commitment to just be a goody two-shoes. But I agree to what you want. For the sake of what remains of my people, and for the sake of yours, I'll try. I have no idea how you expect me to be a better man or atone for people I've killed, but you'll get the best try I get. Bardock never backs down. Gohan just smiled at the Saiyan before him. After all, the journey of 1,000 miles begins but with a single step. And it was his mission to guide both father and son to the better life. What life? The life of self-discipline in the way of the martial artist. The question was he ready to take on training 2 aliens? One man's fate has changed, and with it, the fates of many. This has begun with an act of love from a race that one could hardly call affectionate. What lies ahead for Bardock and Kakarot? Well, you'll just have to tune in next time for part 2. So that being said, everyone, this has been part 1 of What If Bardock Went with Kakarot to Earth. This has been a little bit out of the ordinary for me, not exactly in my wheelhouse, but I hope it was to your enjoyment, folks, and if there are any other what if ideas, please put them down below in my comment section, along with any ideas that you think would tickle my fancy with a Bardock, a man with ridiculous power living on Earth in the time of Dragon Ball. And by Dragon Ball, I mean the OG Dragon Ball. So, that being said, if you enjoyed this content, then leave a like. Comment down below what you'd like to see next. And if you have yet to, well, I implore you to subscribe. Not really sure what it does too much anymore with YouTube, but it makes me feel better about the work I put in on this what if. And, you see that bell notification icon? Well, you need to go over to that thing and use Bardock's Revenge Cannon on it. Then use his Spirit Cannon on it. And then the Tyrant Lancer just for good measure. That way you'll be alerted when new content is available. And considering what this week holds for me with the anime convention NakaCon looming, a lot of my videos will either be time delayed or will be, well, delayed in general. I'll have to utilize YouTube's upload algorithm. You know, the whole schedule thing. Not entirely sure how to utilize it efficiently, but I'll do my best. So that being said, people, I'll see you all in the next video.